Perhaps there has been no hip-hop group that has had a bigger impact on music in the 2010s than Odd Future. They were a unique band of outcasts that loved skateboarding, talked a lot of shit, and rapped about gore and violence. Their success in the industry was unexpected and gained a huge cult following, but the group was defined by its two main personalities: Tyler the Creator, a hip-hop producing wonderkin with a crude sense of humor and a professional shit stir, and Earl Sweatshirt, wise beyond his years, a highly lyrical MC with a sharp pen and an even sharper tongue. They both share the fascination with horrorcore, juvenile and controversial subject matter, and just overall weirdness and absurdity. The two were inseparable until they weren't. Flash forward to last year, Tyler the Creator released Igor to massive critical acclaim, a Grammy Award, a headlining tour, and a GQ magazine cover. I mean, who would have thought that Tyler the Creator would be on the cover of GQ? Tyler the Creator probably wouldn't even thought that, but that's how popular Tyler had become. Meanwhile, Earl Sweatshirt released his EP Feet of Clay, his lowest charting project to date, peaking at 102, but it was also his darkest and most unconventional project to date. And if you're an Earl Sweatshirt fan, you knew that meant something. How did these two artists from the same group, who used to share the same ideologies and same goals, come to differ so much from one another, yet while each finding their own respective path to greatness? This is the story of Tyler and Earl. Hey guys, I'm a music nerd here. Before we get into the video, remember to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell to be alerted for new content. Tyler the Creator was born Tyler Okama. He grew up without a father, a subject that he would explore several times in his music. By the age of 14, he learned how to play piano by himself. And in 2007, he co-founded Odd Future with fellow member Haji. A year later, the group released their first mixtape, the Odd Future Tape. Then, in 2009, Tyler the Creator released his first solo mixtape, Bastard. The mixtape was released to critical acclaim and was featured on Best Album of the Year list, but also caused huge controversy for its use of homophobic slurs, lyrics about rape and dismemberment, and snorting coke. This type of shock rap reminded the public of the type of F the world nihilism that Eminem embraced 10 years earlier. But more importantly, this mixtape established what Odd Future stood for: dope rapping, eerie spacey production, and mocking the status quo. Unlike other rappers at the time, they didn't talk about getting money or buying cars. They talked about shit that everybody could relate to, just being young and having fun. Earl Sweatshirt was born in Chicago to a UCLA law professor and a South African poet and activist. He began rapping in the 8th grade under the name Sly Tendencies. Around this time, Tyler the Creator discovered him in MySpace and invited him to join Odd Future. Sly changed his name to Earl Sweatshirt, and the rest is history. In 2010, Earl released his self-titled mixtape. Like Bastard, Earl also gained huge critical acclaim, but also its crude, violent, and sexual lyrics caused controversy with many parents. Now, Odd Future was taking off. They were getting buzz on the underground, but then things changed. After Earl Sweatshirt got in trouble in school with some friends, his mother sent him to a Samoan boarding school for at-risk kids, and suddenly, he was gone from Odd Future. During Earl's time in Samoa, he began to become a pariah for Odd Future fans through internet blogs and zines. The slogan Free Earl became a rallying cry for any Odd Future fan desperate to hear an Earl verse or a new Earl project. However, as Earl couldn't be any farther away from Odd Future, the group's success began to take off. What resulted was a major label record deal, MTV Airplay, and even their own TV show, Lawyer Squad. In 2011, Tyler the Creator released Goblin to commercial and critical success. But even with all the success, Earl was still in the sidelines watching from afar, garnering more hype than ever. It was an expectation that he could never live up to. The Odd Future Tape Volume 2 was released in 2012, and it featured a rap verse from Earl Sweatshirt. Finally, Earl had returned back to Odd Future. Frank Ocean, fellow Odd Future member, released Channel Orange. It amassed huge critical acclaim, even garnering radio play and several Grammy Awards. On that record, Earl Sweatshirt and Tyler the Creator both featured guest verses. The Odd Future machine was becoming stronger into the next year. In 2013, both Tyler and Earl released solo projects, Wolf and Doors respectively. Wolf showed a different side of Tyler, one that was slightly mature. Well, mature in Tyler terms. Meanwhile, Doors also showed a more mature Earl, deviating away from his juvenile horrorcore past. Doors showed that Earl had leveled up as an MC. Tyler and Earl each contributed verses on each other's work. The relationship was still tight-knit, but after 2013, things began to change for Odd Future. Its members were collaborating less on each other's work, and the group's once tight relationship began to dissipate. In 2015, Tyler posted a 2010 photo of Odd Future and left a vague message, leading many to believe that Odd Future had indeed broken up. Earl released his second album, I Don't Do Shit, I Don't Go Outside, the first project of his to not feature any contributions from Tyler. The album was melancholic, moody, and shorter, only clocking at under 30 minutes. With this project, Earl didn't just grow as a rapper, but as a producer as well. He was dictating his own sound. From the album cover to the song lengths, Earl had finally embraced minimalism, whereas Tyler was doing the exact opposite when he released Cherry Bomb a month later, embracing maximalism. The album features a bevy of collaborators, from Pharrell to Kanye, from Lil Wayne to Charlie Wilson. Even his production was becoming more ambitious, featuring trumpets, xylophones, and crunching rock guitars. Tyler was also deviating from his horrorcore past and began to become more socially conscious and more worldly. Although both albums were released a month apart, they were clearly different and showed two young artists establishing their own identities. With their next releases, their ambitions finally paid off. In 2017, Tyler released Flower Boy. The album tackles themes of isolation and anxiety. He began to become more mature and introspective. He talks about his sexuality throughout the album and how he's lost friends along the way. And although he doesn't say any names, one can only hint that he's talking about former Odd Future members. The instrumentation and the production was also more ambitious than ever before. Cherry Bomb was criticized for being too inconsistent production-wise. But with Flower Boy, there's just so much detail and immaculate care to every song. And the fact that Tyler's production began to shift in just a number of years was also amazing. This was a guy who was used to having dark, sample-heavy production, reminiscent of early Wu-Tang Clan and RZA, to sunny, upbeat, colorful production. Flower Boy garnered Tyler the best reviews of his career, with some even calling it a modern rap masterpiece. As Tyler was embracing his warmer side, Earl Sweatshirt retreated more into the darkness. In early 2018, his father passed away, and Earl fell into a deep depression, canceling his European tour. Dan, his close friend and fellow rapper Mac Miller, also passed away later that year, further sinking Earl into his depression. Then in November 2018, he released the song Nowhere to Go, and announced that he was releasing some rap songs later in the month. Flower Boy showcased Tyler at his most vulnerable, and some rap songs does the same to Earl here. It's a challenging, bleak, schizophrenic piece of work that showcased Earl at his most hopeless and angst-ridden. It's an even shorter album than his last one, clocking in at just over 23 minutes. I remember listening to this album for the first time and felt like I got an emotional head rush. There's so many feelings that are packed into this album, from happiness to despair to nostalgia to worry. In my beginner's guide video, in which I talk about early post-punk, I said that Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures was what claustrophobia sounded like, and that applies the same to here. Like Tyler, Earl's production was also becoming ambitious in its own way. While there are songs that barely crack over a minute each, the album features jagged samples and scattered beats, where Earl's sometimes barely appearing in the mix. Like Tyler, he's also tackling themes of loneliness and isolation, but the sound is so much different than Flower Boy. Flower Boy is like a band-aid trying to mask the pain, whereas some rap songs shows the wound fresh and bloody, not caring where you look at it or not. Some rap songs garnered the best reviews of Earl's career, making him one of the most unique and fascinating rappers of our time. It's interesting to see how both guys are miles away from where they were 10 years ago, when they were just teenagers, but both have become bold, uncompromising artists and two of the most unique hip-hop personalities. The story of Tyler and Earl is a story of a lot of us. We all have a friend that we used to be so tight with when we were younger, but then life happens. Your interests and values diverge, and you grow separately. That's not to say that Tyler and Earl don't mess with each other. Maybe they still do, we don't know. but creatively, they are at a different place. Can you imagine Tyler contributing a verse on some rap songs? Could you even imagine Earl Sweatshirt contributing a verse to Igor? It just wouldn't make sense. We all thought that Odd Future was going to conquer the world, but what we didn't know is that Tyler and Earl will conquer the world in their own ways. Hip-hop fans didn't get an Odd Future, but what they got was an unexpectedly fascinating ride. Thanks for checking out this video. Please leave a comment below. I'm curious to know what you think about Tyler the Creator's and Earl Sweatshirt's discographies. YouTube recommends these two videos to watch after this. Anyways, till next time.